Hi, Mom.
Hi, Brock.
How are you?
I'm good today.
Welcome to the podcast officially.
Thank you.
I was thinking we could do like a Mother's Day edition, but we kind of got busy and schedules got tough. We're not that far. How far away was Mother's Day?
No, we're just coming up on Father's Day here.
Yeah, so right in the middle. This will probably actually release.
Right.
Let's see. It's not going to release Monday. Let me get my calendar. It's not going to release Monday.
Probably the day after
June
Father's
9th.
Day.
Yeah, June 16th, day after Father's Day.
Cool.
So people will be so confused. That's what I like.
That works.
Could you just take a second for anybody who doesn't know you, because I know you pretty well.
Yes.
Just who you are, your background, and just a little bit about yourself.
Like my name.
Yeah, your name is good. Yeah, you can start with your name.
Okay. I'm Dawn. Dawn Roggie. I grew up in a same town as you did. Let's see. You want me to tell when?
Yes? Well, that's up to you.
I'm 62 and I was born in 62. This is a banner year.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, boy. Mine's 91.
Oh, hey, you could make it.
I could make it.
Yes.
91 born in the year 91?
Yeah.
Oh, but that's going to make it like, what, 2080? 2080?
Right.
2000, I don't know.
Yeah, something
Whoa.
like that. Yeah.
2000, like imagine the year
I know.
2082. My math is wrong on that, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Nobody's allowed to fact check me. This is my show.
So back in the 60s, can you believe it? Way back in the 60s, 60 years ago.
What was going on during the time period back then?
You know, one fun fact, except for it's not super fun, but the president, John F. Kennedy, was shot on my first birthday. 1963, yep, November 22nd.
That kind of put a damper on the party, probably.
I know.
Wait, what time of day should ChatGPT that mess?
I don't know.
I bet it was not in the
It
morning.
happened in Texas, so it was a different,
Oh, different time zone?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because I would imagine that would be quite a damper to the mood.
Yeah, well,
Right?
I was only one, so I didn't notice.
Well,
But
not for you.
I was born on Thanksgiving Day.
for
That's
everybody
another
who-
fun fact.
On Thanksgiving
Let's
Day?
talk about fun facts for November 22nd. Yeah.
Okay, fun fact about Thanksgiving is that it's not on the same day every year. Wait,
No, it's just on the fourth Thursday.
why do they do that? Can we fix that? I don't
It's
like
kind of
it.
fun.
It is?
Kind of, yeah, because then your birthday is sometimes on Thanksgiving and sometimes not.
Yeah, I
You
guess.
know, sometimes you get an extra
Third
day here or
Thursday
there.
every November.
I just start celebrating November 1st, but I had a grandson born on my 50th birthday, also on Thanksgiving Day. Super exciting.
Birthday buddy.
Yep.
I got
Other
one of
birthday
those.
buddy. Yeah, you do. We sort of share a birthday buddy too, except for
With
you
an
and
anniversary.
You were born on our 10th anniversary.
What is happening?
Amazing.
What is happening right now? You just keep all of your significant dates to like 3 or 4 dates, and they have to be the same.
Yeah, I don't have to remember too many of my own birthday and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was born as a second daughter to, my mom and dad who had always lived in the area. And so I've always lived in the area. And we lived on a farm. And then there were 2 brothers that followed the 2 sisters.
All-American family.
And yes,
Right.
the $1 million family, my dad calls
2
it.
girls, 2 boys.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've since heard that the $1 million family is 1 girl and 1 boy, so I think we had the $2 million family or something like that. Yeah.
That sounds like a modern adaptation, right?
Yeah, yeah.
People having less kids, it sounds like,
Yeah.
that's a modern change.
Yeah. I had a really good growing up. You know, I feel very blessed and I was sheltered, and I'm thankful for that, like in a lot of ways, like from harmful things. And I just feel so blessed about that.
What kind of harmful things?
Yeah. Let me say it on camera.
I don't know anymore. You're talking like violence or drugs or alcohol.
So many of those
Yeah.
things, other things too, just that people go through in their lives that I was spared somehow, you know. Just had a really beautiful growing up. Yeah. My parents are just lovely people, as you know, because you've had them on your podcast and you grew up with them too.
That's right. They've both been on.
Yeah, such a blessing in my life. My mother has been a constant cheerleader in my ear ever since I can remember. You know, I still have words of hers that come back to me as things that she has said to me. And it's just really, it's a lovely way to grow up. It just really is. I feel very blessed about that. Mm-hmm. So I went to Lowville Academy Central School.
Shout out. Class
Growing
of
up.
2010 for me. What was your class?
1980.
80. That's 30 years. Probably to the day, because that's how you do things. You only do things on the same exact. Okay, it has to be exactly 30 years.
No, I'm just kidding. Of June. How about you?
You're either very lucky with your dates or you're a very good planner.
Not a planner.
When you decided to have me, you were like, okay,
Dates.
how can I make his graduation 30 years after mine?
Yeah.
No, just lucky.
Oh, boy.
Yep. Yeah, Lowville Academy, shout out. Great school. What was some memories of... before that, can we go back to, like do you have any specific memories growing up?
Yes. My grandpa lived with us until he passed away when I was, going to turn 5, I think. I was probably 4.5. So, and I have very few memories of him, but... sweet memories, you know, like I love that he lived with us and that I knew him in that way. And we grew up on the family farm, which was his farm and his father's farm before that. So it was, I don't remember a lot before that. It feels like it was too young to have those kinds of memories, you know. Like we have pictures, so I know that I took tap dancing and stuff like that, but I don't remember it. Yeah.
Not everything was 4K cell phone footage of your entire childhood.
No, but we do have some home movies, which are,
reel to reel.
Fun. Yeah.
Reel to reel?
Yeah.
Can you explain to our audience what that is?
Yeah. I mean, I can still remember the smell of opening up the big screen, to project onto it to watch the movies. Yeah. That takes me back. But, my dad's camera on his, it was square. I feel like it was about this.
Like a movie box.
Big. Yep. Yeah. And it had, a lens on it. And
you
could hear it running.
Did the, actual recording device turn into a projector also?
No.
You had to you take the reels that it was recording onto, place them onto a projector.
I don't know how that happened.
Whoa. People have no idea. We're talking reel to reels, which is like those old, circular tracks with footage, like big giant footage reels. Is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about like the slides?
Well, I mean, they're on
a disc.
Yeah, like this big now, and it runs for quite a while, and it goes through the.
Yeah, it's okay. So it's on a wheel, and one goes to the other, and then it basically passes through light so that it shines light in quick motion onto the screen.
Yes.
So that it looks anybody who doesn't know what that is, they have to look at it. Maybe I'll put something up so that people
you hear
can
it going
see it.
click, 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 click,
Yep.
and
it's like just like the old movies.
Yeah.
When you used to go to old movies and they'd show the first entry screen or whatever.
Yes,
remember
like
that noise?
Yeah. Yeah, it does
I
that.
do have memories. Remember we used to go up to the library and grab, they had an old reel to reel there, and we would grab like Curious George.
Oh, yes.
And like some of the very first episodes of Curious George.
Yes.
Loved that. Great memories. I can remember
bring
the
the
smell.
projector home. Yeah, can you? Yeah.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah. So that's kind of your memory now. It's amazing because like my kids are gonna.
Yeah, it'll be like.
Our home videos are like, so first of all, there's way more.
Yeah.
Like terabytes probably at
Everything is recorded. Like everything is documented.
I think I'm going to own an entire cloud at some point if I keep going at the rate we're going.
I'm wondering, would I enjoy watching all that? Like that would be cool because I wonder about myself as a child. Sometimes I wonder if I am how I think I am or if people see me completely differently. You know what I mean? Right. Like that.
Interesting. Yeah, because you wouldn't know.
No. And to be able to see it on screen, like would it give you insight into any of that? But
I feel like being born in 91, growing up in the 90s, and then like being a teenager or like late adolescence in early 2000s. Like in 91, it was there VHS? VHS was kind of the way to go. But that was like you put a tape into the camcorder and then you record it that way.
Right.
Yeah, and I feel
Right, but that
Like,
didn't
I'm in the
translate.
middle.
We must have sent those off then. We must have had to have sent those off, and they came back on a reel.
Yeah, or a VHS.
You know?
I think we had them on VHS too.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean back when you were a kid?
No, I'm thinking of the one that we first had.
Oh, okay.
It was a small Fuji. It was like much smaller.
Oh,
smaller.
yeah. Real
Not like a cell
compact.
phone. Real compact.
Nowadays,
It wasn't the kind that you put on your shoulder. Like,
we have the computing power of
we have
NASA in our pockets. And back then, you're like, check out this awesome
thing
little
that does one
compact thing. It's like on your shoulder.
Yeah,
like
and no
a
sound.
boom box.
Right.
3 feet by 2
Okay,
feet.
so ours was much smaller than that.
What, was it only like that big?
No.
Really? Like this?
Yeah. It was really small. Yeah.
We're trending in the right direction.
I know.
No, but I feel like we did, like I'm kind of in the middle. Like I was in the middle of the tech boom.
Right.
When I was growing up, we didn't have internet.
Right.
Like we didn't have computers and like all that stuff.
Did we have email?
91? I don't know.
Yeah.
I remember barely having dial-up internet when I was like 10.
Okay.
So that was like the turn of the century. Anyways, whereas like you didn't have any of that and have no recollection really besides some pictures and maybe real footage of what you were like when you were a kid.
Right.
And I have a little bit on VHS.
Right.
A little bit. Not crazy, and I don't get to watch it very often. But my girls, it's as easy as like pulling your phone out and just showing them their entire life. That's weird.
Right.
Wonder how that's going to affect them.
I know. I wonder too what it's going to do to our memories, because we'll have so much more accuracy, don't you think? Like looking back and I mean, because part of, you sometimes wonder, what am I actually remembering and what have I just seen a picture of,
Right. Or how many memories are implanted. You can do that with kids.
Oh, yes.
Psychologically, you can implant memories that never happened.
I believe it.
Well, and then perceptions of how you were as a kid. Like you wouldn't actually know. And those old days didn't have audio. Like the old reel-to-reel, no audio.
Ours didn't either.
Yeah. So
Until
you don't know what you sounded like as a child.
Right.
You don't know what your first words sound like. The only people who would know would be like your parents. And then they would maybe tell you, and then that's your only perception of reality for when you were a kid.
That's right.
Crazy.
It's according to their narrative, right? For you. Right.
So how accurate is that?
Yeah.
Nobody knows. Crazy. That is a cool, I don't know. I like to think about that. I like to think about that stuff. So
yeah.
But anyway, okay. So you grew up very happy.
Yep. And very shy.
Okay.
I was definitely shy, and I, still have some of those tendencies, but I outgrew them somewhat too. Always hiding behind my sister, which was great because she was outgoing, and I could, follow her through like receiving lines or, wherever I could trust her to carry the conversation. I could just kind of be in the shadows, and that was just perfectly fine with me.
How many times do you see that where the oldest child is like the more confident, outgoing? The second child is more like timid. A lot of times I feel like.
I don't know. It
maybe a little more shy.
It must just be about half and half.
Yeah. Or when you have one, you have the other one next. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just see that a lot, it seems like.
Yeah.
Like Stephanie's second born, and she's definitely like not as outgoing as Jenna, her older sister. Olivia and Hannah. Like there's a lot of examples of that.
Yeah.
So interesting. So you were more shy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, really shy.
Yeah.
Like whispering. I mean, that's this one thing I remember is people saying to me, "Speak up, honey." I just wanted to have a very slight presence, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Be seen and not heard, and barely be seen if possible.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Yep.
Was that something that kind of you had to learn to develop out of a little bit?
Yeah, I did. I was a cheerleader, and so like a lot of times that's a sort of an outgoing position, but then years later I coached the cheerleaders, and I remember going into the first meeting in the high school library with all of the other coaches, and I was like, wow, like here I am, and I don't know, somehow I feel like that was a turning point. Like, okay, I can, I'm here too, and I'm a coach now too, and I don't know, just fitting in, deciding to fit in. I don't know.
Or
I think it helped.
Change born from necessity? Like you kind of had to be that way?
Yeah, maybe.
I feel that way. I must have that a little bit from you. Like I was always outgoing and fun, but
Oh, yeah.
like when I get into a room where I'm not comfortable, I could very much be like, oh, like I'm just going to kind of sit over here and be quiet.
Yes.
But like with my policing stuff, like you can't be in a room.
Oh, yes.
Like they'll call you out on it. And then you have to like, by necessity, learn how to get over that. Yeah. Like in school, I was never the one that would be like raising my hand all the time. Isn't that weird? Because I'm pretty outgoing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, too, that is like, it feels like contrary a little bit to my personality is that I feel in a group of people where we're all discussing something like, oh, I always want to be the one to raise my hand, but I don't think I was that way in high school or, you know, and I just wanted to fade into the woodwork, you know, but yeah, then something maybe changed or I don't know. It's interesting to think about it, but I turned into a very like anything that was being run, I felt that I could run it. You know, anything I joined, I felt I could be the leader or, you know, whatever. It's weird, huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kind of full circle. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Was that hard? Was that process hard, or was it just kind of like one day it snapped? Like you said, you were talking in your cheerleading coaching or whatever. That was kind of like, oh, and from there I was more confident.
I feel like it's always in the background. I feel like this shy element of me is always in the background and always trying to figure it out. Like seriously, to this day, you know what I mean?
It's an interesting dynamic from somebody who I would describe as a very much a leader in like everything that you do. But I could totally understand it. I'm like, I think I'm a leader too in a lot of ways, but in certain settings, I'd rather just sit and not raise my hand, and I get maybe even get nervous sometimes.
Right? Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of times maybe I would want to raise my hand, but I'm too shy to do it. Still, to this day, like to ask a question or to. I mean, so many times I'm like, oh, that means I have to talk to somebody, you know.
Yeah, kind of the like a little bit of social anxiety, a little bit.
Yeah.
So then you. Before we get into your cheerleading, what do you have a fond memory of being on the farm?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, a few great memories. Yeah. So here's one fun memory that I have is that we had a big farmhouse, and in that farmhouse, my bedroom was upstairs. But you know, there were these vents, these like registers we called them, that you know you could shout up and down them because there was nothing in between, just the downstairs and the upstairs. But sometimes I would go to bed at night and I would hear my mother playing the accordion. You know, that's a really great memory. Playing outside, I was an outdoors girl. You know, there were animals out there that I loved, cats and dogs especially, and baby kittens we had on the farm and things like that. But playing with my brothers, mostly they were outdoorsy too. And so Melv and I especially, we have a lot of, you know, playing cops and robbers and, you know, just hanging out.
He would have been the closest younger sibling.
The next one. Yep. Mm-hmm. He's 3.5 years or so younger than me.
Okay. How many years between you and your sister?
2.
2. Okay.
2.5. Yeah. So just being outside, you know, riding on the top of the hay wagon, you know, when the wagon was all full with hay bales, and just sitting on the top and riding back and forth from the barns, and you know, just helping, working, enjoying the animals. I was given a pony when I was just turning 12 or 13.
Wow.
Yeah, really.
Pretty high on the hog.
Really exciting stuff. And my parents surprised me with it when I got home. And it was, you know, one of the best days ever. And then we overwintered her. And in the spring, she had a foal. And I happened to be the one who found her that morning. And because I was going out to the barn it's just a great day. That was June 1st, in case you wondered.
Oh,
1975.
Well, at least it didn't stand out to you or anything. Remember exactly what time you found out? The memories of a child stay with you forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard to let those go? You probably remember the smells of certain things.
So the other night when we were working on the gazebo and the farmer was cutting the hay, Will was down there and he bent over and picked up some of the grass and brought it up to his nose, and stuff. And he was like, what is he doing? But I knew exactly what he was doing. And yesterday when I walked through the hayfield, I could smell it, and it takes you back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty significant. Mm-hmm. Okay. So then what would be one lasting memory that you can share about your mom and your dad on the farm growing up?
My mom was mostly in the house, and she spent a lot of time in the kitchen, and so we could pretty much always find her there. I think she loves to cook. Mm-hmm. And so she always had a meal for us, and I did not have to do much cooking. I pretty much didn't do any, I think. I think we could put it right down to that. So that is how I picture her. And then, of course, my dad, I worked alongside of him because once I got a pony, then I had to go to the barn every day in the afternoons. And, I helped with this and helped with that and just spent time working with him. And even when we were little, he would dress us up and take us out to make fence with him. And I don't think I have an actual memory of that, but we have pictures, of that. So I spent a lot of time with him there. Mm. Yeah, just working alongside of him.
Yeah. You learned responsibility with the pony.
Right.
So, very valuable lesson. Mm-hmm. This thing is now dependent on you, and you have to take care of it. So,
yep.
Do it or else.
Yeah.
Or else bye-bye pony, right?
Well, she had her own problems, but she was a stinker pony. She was fast, but she also didn't always let me catch her. And
I meant more like bye-bye, like to another farm, Mom, not what you're thinking.
No, I know, but I'm thinking, what have I been that sad?
What about the foal?
Oh, she was like having a puppy. She was so gentle and so wonderful. And like I could carry her around for quite a while. Wow. She was small. I mean, it's a pony. So
a baby pony. That's like a baby.
I know. She was adorable. She was white with little spots on her, little tan spots. And
her
she
name?
Was beautiful. Golly.
Golly with a G.
Mm-hmm. Golly.
Like Golly Gee Whiz. That sounds like a TV show.
It was a nickname. Yeah.
Golly. I like Golly.
She was really sweet. Yeah.
Wow. So then you went to school.
Yep.
And were you a good student?
I would say I was like an average student, like a B student maybe, like 80s. Yeah, except for in the things that I loved and I excelled.
Isn't that always how it goes?
Yeah. So, of course, music. It's easy probably to get an A in that. I'm assuming it was easy for me. And Spanish.
Spanish, not so much.
Languages, yeah. Yeah. But I think mostly, history didn't do a thing for me back then. I love it now. Science wasn't my thing. Math was okay. But, I would say I was a B student.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
When did you, because I know the answer to this, when did you meet Dad? When did you meet William, who's been on the podcast, by the way?
1978. Twice. I was 15, and we were both in the same wedding festivity. He was an usher, and I was playing guitar and singing with a friend of mine for his cousin, who we knew, and that's where we met that weekend. So we started, all of us, as friends, groups of friends, hung out for the weekend. And then, as you know, from his podcast, his cousin worked for my dad on the farm. So that was convenient. He came over quite a bit. And, we just started doing things. And we were sort of running in the same circles a little bit, too, with the church youth group, his church youth group.
Okay.
And we sometimes did things with those, with those guys. So
what was your first impression
when
you saw him at the wedding?
I don't remember.
Wow.
I know, isn't that terrible?
Gotta edit that out. Well, there must have been some interest there.
I know. There were a lot of people. It was that first weekend. That's not we were all just
Oh, it's just a big
hanging out
group.
as groups. Yeah.
Well,
And
what
we
drew
were-
you? What
I don't
drew
remember
you to
like
him?
riding with him anywhere that weekend, although I may have. Like it was just a bunch of people just, sort of knew each other. I probably stuck with the people I knew better. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like must have piqued your interest then, though. Left an impression to at least you met.
By the middle of the summer, I was definitely seeking him out more, paying more attention, hoping to ride with him home from a ball game or, whatever, or to an event or, yeah.
That's pretty special stuff.
Yeah, it is.
So then, I mean, because you said 15. So what year of high school?
78. He had just graduated in 78. So it was that summer, like in May is when the wedding was. That we met at.
The knight in shining armor came into your life, and then you don't even remember.
So he tells this story.
So, okay, go ahead.
He tells everybody that I chased him, and blah blah blah.
At the wedding,
just
or
everywhere,
just in general.
Yeah,
okay.
The opposite is actually true.
He pursued.
He did. He totally did. Yeah.
That's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
So love at first sight then is just nonsense. Is that it?
I think he loved me at first sight.
Love at first sight. Thoughts. Go.
Thoughts. I'd love it when that happens for people. I wish that was my story. Can I change my story? No.
Yeah, you can. We can. This is totally editable.
Here it is.
Editable? Not edible. Editable.
This is an editable
This
story.
is able to be edited.
Yeah. It didn't happen that way for me, but
well,
it sure has worked out well.
This is now public record, and you will never be able to hide that. So
I know. My worst regret.
You said he pursued you. What did that look like?
He did. What did that look like? Showing up at places, going places that he wouldn't normally go, that I was at, maybe church meetings or something like that. I mean, he had his own set of church meetings, but he would maybe come to things that were of more interest to me. Yeah, I don't know. You have to ask him.
And then the rest is history.
Right.
So then you guys obviously were familiar through high school, and then
my high school. I mean, he had graduated.
Okay.
Yeah. So
he's 2 years older.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So he came to all of my games when I was cheerleading. He and my dad lots of times would come to pretty much all of the games.
Brownie points.
Yep.
Sit with the father
Yep.
in law. Yep. At ball games or at wherever you're cheerleading.
Yep.
So I like that. Something about it's hard when like both are pursuing sometimes. It can be a little bit.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Just, whatever.
Yeah.
So then after high school, you graduate. Mm-hmm. And what was on the horizon? Did you have like thoughts of college? Did you want to start working? Like what were you?
Yep. Earlier on, I had thought about going to college. I thought I would be a school teacher. Shocker. Ended up homeschooling a bunch of my kids. And I also thought about going to BOCES to take cosmetology. I was interested in cutting hair. And then by the time that I decided not to go to college, it was too late to get into the BOCES, program. Like I think at that point. So I kind of missed out on both, but I'm not unhappy about that. I don't regret that. I visited a few colleges, and I think that I make decisions a lot on how I feel about things. So I went to visit some college, and it just didn't feel right to me. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's great. I didn't end up needing it for me, and it's great if people go if they want to and need it, but I don't regret not having that. Yeah.
I think people correlate college with intelligence too much versus like the utility of college being a representation of who you are. And like, no, you don't actually have to go to college to be very smart and to be educated, by the way, because in the era that we are now, maybe not so much like when you were, it's like, you want an education, you have the world in your pocket.
Love that.
You have the world at your
learning.
fingertips. You can educate yourself.
Yeah. Yep.
Whereas when I was growing up, so we're talking, when I was getting ready to be done with high school in like the late 2000s, early 2010s, it was like, you have to go to college. Like, that's just the only way to go. Like,
right.
Fastest way to the middle class is through college. And like, that
it was
was
starting to be really pushed when I was in high school too. Yeah.
Right.
A
So
lot of people thought that I should be going. You know, not my parents. They did not say one way or the other until I had made a decision. And then they were like, okay, that's great. You know, like, yeah.
Just really supportive.
They were supportive for sure. But I remember people pushing me. Yeah, that I needed to go to college.
Okay, so it's been there.
Yeah, but even more so, it turned out that everybody then, you know, by the time you graduated, pretty much.
I could definitely see utility in more specialized schooling.
It's like in high school. I mean, I wish that I could have really majored on the things that I'm still using to this day, like music and Spanish. I wish that I could have been really encouraged and more focused on those things, you know, like that. There would have been more periods in school where I spent time on those things that I really love, because those are the things that I am still using. Yeah.
Well, even the life lessons like accounting.
Yeah.
You don't learn to balance a checkbook in high school, and you probably should.
Right.
Or how to live under your means, or balance your budget, or like for finance side of things versus taking chemistry. Like, I don't need chemistry. I've never used chemistry unless you're going to be like a scientist or a chemist or a teacher.
And you're going to have gaps anyway. You're going to have learning gaps. So why not be able to kind of choose the gaps and then fill them in later if you need them, and then you can really spend more time. I think I could have gotten fluent in Spanish had I been spending more time there, you know, or.
And your interest changes as you get older too. Like, you've become more interested in history. Well,
yeah,
you know, then I can explore
learn.
that later on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I
love specialized education for college, you know, for higher education and for. Yeah.
Is it because just it's your opinion, then we'll move on. But is it would your opinion be that it's because the volume of students and things have to be more uniformed? You can't just cater every schedule to a kid's specific needs, even though that's what they need.
I'd like to try. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's the only reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even after 8th grade, like do all the basic stuff, you know, through 8th grade, maybe
arithmetic.
Yeah, give the foundation English for it, and then really specialize after that.
Yeah, that would be a better model. That would be a better model. And maybe I was never sat down and really asked what my interests were in high school. And we had good guidance counselors, but it was kind of like,
they must have.
What do you want to do in college? Was more versus like, what subjects do you like?
Yes.
What futures would you like?
Yeah.
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 I don't know, but it works. It works for a lot of people too. So I don't want to be too hard on it.
No, right.
But yeah, okay. So no college then, and Dad didn't go to college.
No, he did not either, and he was working a job, and he proposed to me in the beginning of August, the year I graduated.
Yep.
So we got married the following June.
Whoa. Wait, how old were you?
10 months. Well, let's see. I think I was 17 when I graduated.
So you were 18?
When I got married? Yes. I was.
Wow. Different time.
I
Different time. Because if you were to say that nowadays, people would be like, what?
Oh, yeah.
But like,
yeah,
we're talking you said the 80s?
Yes, but I heard it too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Even at 18?
Mm-hmm.
Because Grandma Zare, your mom,
she was 18.
She was 18, but this was also in the 60s.
Yep. She got married in 59. Mm-hmm.
Where women and men and women, I think, were way more mature faster because of life conditions.
Maybe.
And I think that generally speaking, that bears out pretty much. But it wouldn't be unheard of, let's say, back then in the 60s to get married at 18. Now it's like, what?
Right, in the 60s. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what do you think that is? Do you think that's just a cultural thing, or do you think it's a maturity thing? Both.
I think it's cultural. Do you think it's maturity?
Well, think about it this way. If
I mean,
you
if
have
you
to
weren't-
start raising a home at 18 and running your own home, you have to be prepared for that.
I guess.
Unless you didn't feel prepared, I guess.
No, I didn't know what there was to prepare. I mean, it was just kind of natural to me, I guess. And of course, I was at home watching my mother do it. You know, she was a homemaker, and
Oh, yeah. Okay.
you know,
Yeah, I think that could be then.
organizational skills help a lot.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast this morning, and the guy said that
You're not allowed to listen to any other podcasts in this one.
I'm sorry, it wasn't. It was an audio book.
Okay. All right.
It was
I'll let
Atomic
it
Habits,
pass.
actually.
What was it?
Atomic Habits. You probably
Uh-uh.
recommended it to me. Yeah. So
James
finally
Clear.
I got to listen to it. I mean, I'm listening to it, and he said, if you make he just gave an example, several different examples, but one was if you make your bed every day, you probably have organizational skills. And I'm like, ding.
Yes. You're like, I do that.
I do that.
Yeah, great.
I was
Atomic
actually
Habits.
making my bed at the time.
Habit
Isn't that cool?
stacking. Well, of course you were. There's a lot of symmetry in the way your life has worked out. It's a little weird. Yeah, I just think that if my daughter was to come up to me at 18 and be like, I'm ready to get married, I'd be like, no shot. You're not ready. But
You wait until
maybe
it
it is
gets
a cultural thing. Maybe it is a
Because
cultural
when you're
thing.
a parent and you think, oh, when my kid comes and says to me at 16, they want to go get their permit, I'm going to be like, no way. But then it comes and you're ready. You're so ready. You're like, oh man, I can't wait until they can drive themselves to all these places.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
That's like a hindsight problem.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that you kind of decided we're just going to jump into life right away.
Yeah, it didn't seem that odd to me at all.
Okay.
Even though there were a few people giving pushback.
Pushback to go to college or to travel or like
Just the comments. Like, oh, you're so young. Oh, I can't believe. Oh, people in the city would never get married at this.
by older people. Was it mostly older people?
Older people,
yeah, okay.
of course.
They're probably all like, oh, I wish I would have not, because, okay, so we got married. When we got married, we waited a year and then we started trying to have kids. Well, right away we had started having kids. And we thought it would take like 6 months to whatever.
Right.
Nope, didn't work that way.
Right.
And looking back at it, obviously I would never replace my daughters
Right.
at all. But it was like, man, it would have been nice to have a little more time with us to travel and to do things.
Yeah.
And then, because now it's like, well, we'll do
You
that
guys
in
are
like
fun
15
like
years.
that too. That's cool.
But no, I wouldn't trade them for the world. And this is just
know.
the stage of life we're in now. So
Yeah.
it's great. But I could understand how people who are older would be like, enjoy your youth.
Oh yeah, yeah. There is all of that. I know.
Who cares?
I always
what
played it as child's play. Like I was always playing house and playing school, and
just kind of natural progression into life.
I was Miss Sunflower.
At your imaginary school, Miss Sunflower. Okay.
My Aunt Jane will remember that.
That's funny.
Yeah, she was a teacher. She's sort of my role
Miss Sunflower.
model. Yeah. Yep.
I was just going to say
I did a
something.
lot of imaginary play, but being a housewife was totally it, having a playhouse and doing all the things that you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Taking care of my baby dolls.
That is pretty interesting.
I know.
I mean,
They say to do that, like watch what your kids play with when they're little, like, or if you want to know yourself better, you want to know what you're really interested in, think back to the child you and what did you love.
and that kind of
Worked for you,
manifests, yeah.
Brock.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. But, oh yeah, I mean, what were we talking about right before that? Because I had an interesting point.
About people not, or giving pushback, like, oh, you're so young, and
Yeah. Oh, yes. It kind of when people give pushback like that, it kind of brings me to the quote that I've heard recently. It says that you shouldn't, and I don't know how like biblical that would be, but it says like you shouldn't concern yourself with the opinions of people you wouldn't ask advice from.
that's so good.
Isn't that good?
Yeah. Can we write that one down?
Write it down.
pad
You're
paper.
welcome. I don't know whose quote it was. It's not mine. But I thought that was really interesting. Like if somebody offends you or if somebody gives you advice that you don't like, It's okay. Is there a hierarchy of opinions that matter to you? There should be.
So, yeah. Yeah, and then to not take it personally.
Yeah. You can receive it with humility, of course.
Yeah.
But, do you internalize that if it's I don't know. Yeah. I mean, if the criticism is valid, then maybe the host shouldn't really matter as much as long as you're receiving it with humility. Does that make sense?
Yep.
If I don't like somebody and that person tells me something I need to fix in my life.
That can be valid, right?
To be intentional and let's say focusing inward. If I was emotionally intelligent enough, I would say that's good information that I can receive and work on, even though it's not coming from somebody maybe I would respect or appreciate their opinion about.
For sure.
But yes, how much does that change who you are?
Yeah. Right. And change your decisions and
exactly. Yeah. Yes. And if it's not fair criticism and it's just somebody's opinion that's not accurate, then if that's not a person that you would go to for advice, then what does it matter?
Right. And how to weed that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
a big thing.
That's the big part of emotional intelligence is being able to filter that stuff through, think critically about it, and then use it in your life to kind of make yourself better. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like when we're talking about this stuff, even I flip-flop, I can be very confident and I would have not listened anyway to, probably to, it certainly wasn't going to change my decision. So I was very confident. And yet on the other hand, I can see myself constantly having an inner dialogue going, am I right? I'm afraid of being wrong in this situation and what I'm doing, and the constant battle going back and forth in my head all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you're a very
everything.
Conscientious person.
That's
why.
That's the conscientiousness. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Remember when we took the personality test on the train?
Yes. That's another thing we could have done today that would have been more fun. We could have gone for a train ride again.
Then go to a podcast. You're doing great.
I'm thinking of fun things that we could have done.
What did you score in conscientiousness out of 100? Do you remember?
Shoot, was it above 80 something, 85?
Okay. I think it was 85 to 90.
It was not as high as yours.
No, mine was 99.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe mine was in the 90s, but I can't.
Let me pull up a definition of conscientiousness so people can understand, because that's not like a word where you grow up knowing.
Right. Right. Conscientiousness. I'm trying to think of what I would have termed it before. It feels like it's very close to my people-pleasing trait.
Okay, yep. So it's, according to Oxford, what do they know anyway?
They're educated.
Conscientiousness is the quality of wishing to do one's work or duty well and thoroughly. Yeah, so that is the part of receiving information and being like, oh, well, if I'm not doing well in that area, I want to do better.
And
all the time.
If I had my own definition, I would say wanting to do it right, because it seemed like there were so many things that were right. Right,
in quotations.
There was a right, yes, there was a right way to do things and pretty much everything, and to try to get away from that a little bit now. That's one of the things, that, I learned from Nick.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, I could labor over, do I sell this cookie for 50 cents or 75 cents? Which is the right answer?
You're right. Yeah, so
and he would say, there isn't a right answer. You can sell it for 50 and sell more. You can, but make less, or, and in the end, you can sell it for 75, sell less, and make the same amount. There isn't a right answer. He would say that to me a lot of times. And
not a right answer. Brain explodes.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
Nick used to be a host on the podcast.
Yeah.
And here, and also is a business partner of yours.
Yeah.
And is your son-in-law. So just so everybody knows who that Nick is we're talking about.
Yeah.
Conscientiousness, according to Wikipedia, which is way more reliable than Oxford.
Okay. Well.
That's a joke.
Yeah.
Conscientiousness is a personality trait of being responsible, careful, or diligent.
Okay.
Conscientiousness implies a desire to do a task well. Merriam-Webster says it is the condition or quality of being conscientious. Duh. Thanks a lot, Merriam-Webster. Holy cow. Cambridge, the quality of working hard and being careful. So just kind of getting a wider
So the cautious
view.
part, yeah.
Yeah, you can relate to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't...
I mean, yes and no. This is the thing. I am such a mix of my own self.
Yeah, you are. Somebody
gives me an idea, I can let's do it right now. Let's start. Let's, start researching. Let's start moving forward and, let's just get right on it. But then there's this other side of me that, it might not be right. Doing it well, I did not realize was important to me. But doing it right, I realized was always very important to me.
Okay, interesting.
That would keep me back from doing something maybe, or would just take, analysis paralysis it would give me, Yeah, right. Yeah, there's a right and a wrong.
I feel like you could have a fear of failure problem or a fearlessness problem, there's a dichotomy there of confidence and fearlessness to go and attack something because you have the confidence in your conscientiousness, which is weird. Like for me,
wow.
For me,
we might
that's
get a
why
little
you're
too deep for me here.
That's why you're no, but that's why you're unique because you're just willing to put in the hard work to make something work, and it doesn't matter otherwise. It's just the failure's not is it's a little bit more of a secondary thought. Because you're confident in your abilities.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm not quite that way.
But then wanting to do it right. And maybe that is the doing it well part, but.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think taking big steps in a business or doing something like if you have an idea of something is hard for most people to wrap their head around. And if you have perfectionism too, because I think conscientiousness and perfectionism probably are synonyms. No, and what is that? What's
synonyms
when they're similar?
Yeah,
because they overlap a bunch.
Right.
And if you're too much on the perfectionist side, that is the part that will make you more fearful to fail.
Right, because you care about doing things so well.
Right.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like a constricting feeling.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're super confident in your abilities and who you are and the traits that you have and the abilities that you can control, then I feel like you can jump out into these other things and just know that you're confident in your abilities and you'll see it through.
Right.
And see it through well.
Right.
And okay, so let's move on then. So I could talk about personality stuff all day.
Oh, I know. It's one of my faves.
I know.
I know. This is what we talked about on the train ride. That was so much fun.
It was a 3.5-hour train ride.
Oh, it was great.
Or whatever it was. And I love psychology. If I could go back, see, that's something in high school I wouldn't have known that I loved.
Right.
Because there's no psychology either. There's no psychology in high school.
Right.
Not really. I mean, definitely not as a
topic, a subject.
Yeah, a subject matter. So
what a great one.
I think I would have loved to get into that.
Me too.
Just understanding why people think the way they do. Yes. Because when I went to college, those were my favorite courses. I loved psychology, all kinds. Adolescent, didn't matter. Social psychology, marketing psychology, all of these things I loved pretty much right away. I went to junior college my first year before getting a scholarship, baseball scholarship to Connecticut. The first class I went to was a social psychology 101. And it was like my favorite. I'm like, what is this field? What is this? And I don't know why I wasn't like, I'm changing.
I know.
I just didn't think it was an option.
Yeah, I know.
I thought I was already enrolled, so that's just the way it was. And I didn't really understand the process maybe.
Yeah. I'm that way. I mean, I just go through life I don't have, 5-year goals, 10-year goals. Sort of life is just happening to me and I'm happy, and it's good and that's fine. That's the way both Will and I are. But there are little caveats or whatever now, oh, wait a minute, I should pay attention to that. That is something that is, I'm noticing this coming up more and more and more as I talk about it. Or, I'd rather do this than that I've always done, And it's changed my life. I've made different decisions. For example, baseball and softball were our family culture, and that is what we did. You know, little music here, and I was involved in music at church for sure. But then I started not going to a ball game and going to a concert with my parents who were sitting in the park listening, you know. And then I found myself going more and more and missing more ball games. And then I found myself talking about it and joining the band and just like going a different direction. Like, oh, this is what I love to do. Like, I love the ball games too. And I learned to enjoy that. Absolutely. And I, to the point where I could miss it now if I didn't have it. But like, oh, why didn't I ever think I love that. This is what the young people do nowadays. They're like, oh, what do we want to have for our family traditions? Not just, oh, this is what it evolves into something. I love the intentionality. Yeah. So for me to listen to myself now and go, oh, music is what I really love, and I am willing to miss a ball game to go to it, even though I hate to miss a ball game.
Right.
Oh, I'm going to be more intentional, and I'm going to go after that thing that I love. Like, too bad that you hadn't had the presence of mind then to go, oh, this is something really great. I should look more into this. Like, what could this open up for me?
Yeah. Well, it kind of naturally transitioned into like a minor. Like when I got into Connecticut, I ended up taking my electives. My electives were in psychology.
See?
Where people would be like, my electives are basket weaving.
Oh, yeah.
Or something easy, right? And here I am taking like, criminal psychology or, I'm trying to think of some of like the more in-depth psychology courses that I take. And they were intense.
Yeah.
But and I was a full-time athlete, which people don't have any idea. Division II is not Division I, but it's more than Division III. Mm-hmm. And it is so time intensive and labor intensive. There's morning workouts. There's lunch batting practice. There's infield practice in the afternoons.
Work on the bus?
When
do you do it?
I don't even know. I have no idea. I had a lot of all-nighters, I can tell you that.
Oh, it's awful.
Man, and I had good grades. Like grades were important to me.
Yes.
Like I was very important to me.
Conscientious, huh?
Yeah.
Conscientious much?
And so it's just amazing that I would choose courses that would make my life harder with limited time.
Interesting.
Because like if you have a ball game that's 3 hours away,
right?
You're leaving at 3, getting there at 6, playing for 2.5 hours, and then it's late getting home and do it all over again. Then you have homework and assignments and unbelievable. So
do you work better under pressure?
That's how much I loved it. I do work way better under pressure.
Yeah, me too. I work better with a deadline, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Some people are like that, and some people that bothers them to even say.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Sure.
Because it's not like I'm procrastinating all the time, because I can get lots of work done before deadlines, but like if I get too busy and that deadline is like tomorrow, then my brain kicks into like go mode. Yeah. And then I can like do anything.
Yeah.
And really
be really
efficient.
Productive, right? Yeah.
Really productive.
Efficient. Efficient.
Yeah. But no, love psychology. Wish I would have. And I had a conversation to switch my major. I don't know if you know that. When I was in Connecticut, I went to my advisor, actually the head of the social studies department. And I said, I love psychology. I love it. And they're like, well, then, why don't we get you in touch with the head of the psychology department? You can go meet with them. And I actually went and met with them.
Well, tell me more.
So
what happened?
You're learning so much about your son right now.
Wow. Love these podcasts.
It ended up being that I was a little bit too far along that a bunch of my credits wouldn't transfer.
And that discouraged you enough. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Too bad.
Too expensive.
Yep.
Which is kind of to my other point before is just, it was too expensive to then like add another year to get my 4-year degree. Darn. Although I could have probably basically double majored at that point, but it would have added another year. It's expensive. I wouldn't have been playing ball. So I don't know. I ended up having a good conversation, and I really was interested in marketing at the time, like psychology and marketing. Very big. At the time, there was a very big need for high-paying jobs that was doing that. So I was like, oh, okay, like I could do that.
Yeah. That is not a field I'm interested in.
Eventually, social marketing.
Marketing? Ooh.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I don't know why that jumped out to me.
I wish I was. I mean, I think it would have made
looking back on it
better.
now, I would have loved to do more of research, and I would have loved to do more of teaching. So that would have looked like getting my master's and then applying for a doctorate program.
Oh, yeah.
So
you were on track to do that at one point. Yeah, I
was
see that.
in my master's
Totally.
degree. Yep.
You never know.
Yeah. So then I went back and talked to my social studies, the head of the social studies department, and kind of just decided like I'm just going to finish this out, and ended up getting the social science award for the entire school. Remember, that was a pretty big deal.
Yes. I just saw that picture pop up lately.
Yep.
Sitting in that.
Summa cum laude. Yeah. I took my academics super serious.
Yeah.
They were important to me. So
Amazing what you accomplished being also an athlete.
Yeah, it just takes a lot of time. It's just a time problem.
People do it.
Yeah, people do it. And people do it. People go to Stanford and Yale and come out with 4.0s playing Division I football. So, like, it can be done. It can be done. Highly conscientious people, I bet.
Yeah.
But one more thing about the psychology was once I got done with my bachelor's, I went to my master's program. And while I was in my master's program for education, I had also met with that counselor and said, like, I would like to pursue being a professor at the college level in a doctorate program. She goes, I think you'd be a great candidate. She's like, you'd be a great candidate. And she's like, I'll put in all the information. I'll do whatever you want. And then life kind of took me a different way, and then soon after that, Corwin messaged me about a police test down in Connecticut, and I had just the way that my life was going, I was just kind of circularly spinning wheels, and so I was like, I'll go do it. And just so happens, that the Lord opened a whole bunch of doors, and that's where I was supposed to be. So
that was fun too.
Crazy. But so then I'm like, okay, like how do I merge policing and psychology? Well, there's not a lot of police psychologists, so like there's a lot of forensic psychology, and that has to do more with the crime side of things. I'm more interested in the psychology part of police officers and what they go through and how that impacts their lives.
Really necessary.
And so maybe that's on my bucket list in the future. But
yeah, for sure.
It's not where God has me right now. Yep. That's okay.
Yeah.
So you got married, and then how long until you guys started having kids?
Almost 2 years.
2 years. Okay. That's a pretty good amount.
Yeah.
Were you at those 2 years? You were kind of like, all right, ready to get after having some kids. So you were like 20.
Yeah. Yep.
And then, what was the discussion for children? Wanted the same amount of children?
Yes, we wanted to have a boy and then twin girls.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know.
Bummer.
Just, the fun things you think about when you're little.
A boy and twin girls.
Twins,
really?
Identical twin girls. I have a real thing for that. Yeah, I think that would be so much fun. But
Yeah.
of course, I know people who have never had twins are the ones who say that. So,
And the reason we're laughing is because you had 4 boys.
I had 4 boys, which was amazing.
Right away.
I know. As soon as I had one boy, I'm like, oh, this is amazing. I'd never thought I cared if I had a girl. Isn't that funny? I know. But then I had a girl, and I realized, this is why people thought I should have a girl. But
Because you don't know what you don't have.
you don't know what you don't have. But I loved having boys.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What about having boys?
Oh, I don't know. I just was I don't know. It felt like kind of unique. Like, I have 1 boy, I have 2 boys, I have 3 boys. Now I have 4 boys. Like, I'm part of a special elite club here,
Right.
No girls. I don't know. There's a little bit of notoriety, like, you don't have any girls? Like, nope.
Yeah. The law of probabilities is still 50-50, but I would like to know the probability of having 4 boys in a row.
Yeah, I know a few people. I
have
have relatives on each side that have more than that.
Statistical fallacy of, statistically speaking, well, you should have a girl after 4 boys. It's like, no, actually, it's just 50-50 all the time.
Right.
But the probability of having 4 boys and then having a girl, because each one
probably
is 50-50.
Less, right? Is it less?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
So that's kind of how that works.
Yeah.
It's like past results don't predict future results. But
interesting.
To have that number of boys specifically in a row is way less common. So
See, no wonder I was so proud.
See, that's pretty good.
Happy.
Plus, I was one of them, and amazing.
Yes,
so
I know. Yeah.
So, what was it like raising 4 boys versus when you had your girl?
I don't know. I'm not like, I guess, the stereotypical, boys were so much harder or girls were so much harder. It wasn't like that for me. It just wasn't. I don't know. I can't really relate to that, but they're all great in their own ways. So I just loved having children and having a lot of them and having them at home, having them around, Yeah.
Transitioning from a married couple to parents, changed your relationship at all?
No. I just see, like I said, that we're the kind of people who, life just kind of happens to us. Like we sort of just go along. And I don't think that it was a huge disruption. And of course we were, of the mindset. And a lot of the people that we hung out with were also the same way. Like if we had something that we wanted to do, we just took the kids along with us. If there was a church meeting or, some fun event, like, we would go to people's houses. Kids would sleep on the floor, until we picked them up and went home. Like we were not super rigid, nap time was important, but it didn't have to be in the crib,
Nap time as far as schedule, you mean?
Yeah,
Like
it wasn't a rigid schedule.
Okay.
I do love that about people, though. I love rigid schedules. Like,
Do
I
you?
love people that do that. Yeah.
It's a little
But I
constraining.
also love the flexibility that we had of
Yep.
just, the kids are just going to be sleeping on the church pew, or whatever.
Yeah.
Except for when we forget to take them home.
That happened to me once.
Yep.
Yeah. I was playing in the tree in front of church.
Goodbye.
And,
See
my
your parents
car
drive
just
away.
drove away. I was like,
How far did we get?
I was not very old. What was I like? I barely remember that.
I
Was
don't
like
know.
5?
I don't know.
And because you guys were going to Papa Joe's Pizza.
Oh,
And
somebody bring you over?
I think that's what happened.
Oh, hey, Brock.
Well, no cell phones. Not really.
Nope.
In 96,
Nope.
95, 96.
Probably not much.
So you guys must have used the phone at Papa Joe's to call the church.
Who knows? It wasn't the first time.
Can we talk about that for a second? Can we talk about how kids nowadays, I sound like I'm like a 70-year-old man. Kids nowadays,
Yeah.
they don't know. But it is true.
I
Like the
love it.
connectivity of like just, okay, hey, where are you at?
Oh, yeah. Well,
Where are you at?
yeah.
It just used to be you just didn't know. Like, okay, I'm going to town.
No.
And I'll see you when we get back.
Sort of, although you sort of just knew. You made plans ahead of time. It wasn't just flying by the
Okay.
seat of your pants.
All right.
So it was, you knew where people were, but you knew it ahead of time. It was a plan. It was a schedule. It was this is what we're doing, and this is where I'll meet you at this time or whatever. So
Because it has to be.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah, we had to have it. Now we don't have to. Now we're like, okay, I'll just call you later.
Right.
Huh?
Which do you prefer?
Yeah.
Which era do you like better?
I sometimes I like both. I like not having to make a plan and just being able to go with the flow without, spelling it all out. But I also like the idea of not having to be attached to your phone all the time. Like if I could just say, oh, I'll meet you at 6:00 someplace and not like if we could nail it down, then you're free of your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the devil's in the details. That's what they say, right?
Yeah.
Like it matters. Like technology does a tremendous amount of good, but it can
Yes.
also do a tremendous amount of bad, and it's up to the individual to delineate between the two things.
Yes, I heard a great quote from Gretchen Rubin, and it was, maybe it wasn't original with her, but that technology is a great servant and a poor master. Good one, huh?
I like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. If it serves you, fine, but if it's ruling you,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That one is a hard hitter right there.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I definitely have that internal thought process all the time. As people are listening
Of
and
which
watching
is
the
it?
podcast right now on technology, the amount of great things that it does. Sure. Efficiency, advancement. I talk about medical advancement, talk about agricultural, educational, scientific, space, like everything that technology has done. You just can't be like, oh, well, it's a net negative because it's in your
Right.
pocket and you don't have
That's
the
right.
discipline to turn it off.
Right.
No, right. So, and with anything, it's about dosage, right? Like
It is, yeah, and I need to have that conversation too, because if I want to be less attached to my phone, like I have to have a talk. Like, it has to be a decision almost, these days, like with Will. Like, okay, you're not going to be able to necessarily get a hold of me. And sometimes I will let him know, like, okay, I'm going to be on Do Not Disturb for the next hour and a half or whatever. Call the landline. I still have a landline.
Yeah, you're crazy.
What's
a landline?
Or, like, just to, like, it feels like you have to let people know now if you've gone offline for a little bit,
Oh, yeah.
Because they're
expecting to be able to communicate with you.
They're expecting to be able to get a hold of you.
Yeah.
They might be a little frustrated if they can't even.
That's weird. Remember having to, like, memorize everybody's phone numbers?
Yeah. Don't we still do that?
Not
no,
really.
I'm just kidding. No.
Let's see. Okay, I could quiz you.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You don't know. You wouldn't know, like, all cell phone numbers, would you?
Well.
Is it programmed into your phone? Are you just good this way?
I know some.
Yeah. I think it's probably your generation, too. Like, I remember growing up and having to learn numbers.
Yeah.
Like, it's not really that way. You just program it into your phone, and then you just know them by their name. You
Yep.
tell Siri to call them for you. So...
Right.
Yeah, it's
No,
wild.
I don't know my daughters. Some of my daughters-in-law I do, and some of them I don't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We have that conversation too, Stephanie and I, my wife, about technology usage, and not just relating to parenting, but also like, hey, like when we're together or when we're in a family setting, we need to be conscious of, the way technology is distracting us.
Yes.
Because slippery slope.
One thing that I notice that it does, like if I'm in a group and somebody pulls out their phone, or even if it's just the two of us, but we're not visiting, like, and somebody pulls out their phone or has an AirPod, or an earbud or something, it just stilts conversation. It just does, because you don't. People pleaser, probably. I don't want to bother somebody if they're listening to something else, or but random conversation will come up if you're not doing that kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah.
It used to be so much that people, if they didn't get a hold of you, it was just like, oh, they'll get back to me.
Yes.
But not. It's
you'll
almost
leave a
like
message.
people want instant.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you text me back immediately?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
So a lot of times when you're in those conversations and like your phone buzzes, it's just kind of habit to just pull it out, see what it is, and then put it back while the person's talking to you. Yeah. I do that all the time, and I shouldn't do that.
I do it. So many things to work at constantly. Yeah. I mean, it's fun. It's invigorating for me. Like, I love to be working at things. Oh, yeah.
Human development.
Oh, yeah. Love it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah. I'm always kind of, I have a picture in my mind of who I want to be when I grow up. Everybody does. And I heard Lou Gosselin say that too, and he's 81.
Is he? Okay.
And he goes, I can't wait to figure out what I'm going to be when I grow up. I love that. I love that, because it's not about like a career. It's not about like how you want to be perceived by others and how you want to identify. It's what's the next step for me and how can I attain that step? Oh, I love that. How can I get better in this area? I love that.
Me too. And I think it all adds to our happiness. Like, and when we're happier people, we are more present for others. We are more generous to others. Like there's a lot of outpouring from being happy inside. And I love things that I want my life to be happy. I want to enjoy my life. I want to love my life. Yeah.
And you're correlating that with like a sense of purpose and drive toward something.
Just bettering, constant bettering, like knowing yourself better, knowing myself better, doing the things that I love and enjoy and bring me, purpose. And
Is that mostly for like internal reasons, or do you feel like the downstream effects of that is that it makes people around you better, and it makes your community better, and it makes the world better ultimately when every individual takes stock of who they are and tries to get better? That's
my way of, let's see, I've got to find the right word here. Defending my pursuit of happiness. That is my, that's my way to defend it.
That's your cop out?
No lie. No, because I love being happy. And I want to be happy all the time. So I want to do things to make my life happier, to make my life more beautiful, And I think I have, my inner critic has said that's selfish, or I've been taught that or something for years, or told that, and that is what I'm trying to defend. Actually, it's not all selfish,
Right.
doing things that I love. I think that is how God made us. I really do. To do things that we love, and then he works purpose out of that. It's not, we don't have to worry about the purpose part of it so much. He takes care of it. He puts you in places because you love and you're doing what you're doing. You love and you're being there and you're present with it. And then who knows what he wants to do out of it, But you're around those people for what? I don't even know all the time, Why do I love music so much? Why am I happy to spend hours in a day practicing, when I practice? Yeah. Okay.
Let's move toward real quick before we kind of start wrapping up here. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about you're kind of unique to the area that we're in regarding homeschooling. And so I thought maybe it would be fun just to kind of hear your thought process of why, you homeschooled us. Most of it, a couple of us all the way through and a couple of us up until high school, right? What was the thought process behind that, and how did that impact your parenting and relationships around the community?
Yeah, good question. So yes, we were one of the first 2 families that started homeschooling in Louisville. Is that what you mean by being unique? Or do you just mean that homeschooling is unique in the community?
No, what you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was when, 1980, 8-ish, and I had heard about it from a friend of mine, Cherie. She was homeschooling, and I was like, what? What's that? What do you mean? You can do that?
Where were they living at the time?
Downstate,
Okay.
Jasper, New York,
Yep.
yeah. And so I was excited about it. I mean, it sounded great to me, and I don't think Will gave much negative pushback around it, and probably wanted to know more about it. But then we just decided to try it year by year, not making any long-term commitments or anything like that.
Right.
And we just kept doing it, and we loved it. It fit our lifestyle well. I guess it was taxing in the way of your children are home all day, and you're just trying to help somebody who's struggling learning to read while you're bouncing a baby on your knee. That kind of thing was hard. But I loved having my kids with me, and I wanted to be the person who influenced them. I mean, why should I have somebody else influence my children more than me? Not that I was always a great influence, because I wasn't, but I guess if anybody was going to ruin them, I was going to do it myself. We always said, there's healing schools of ministry, you can go to
Right.
after we mess you up. But no, really, we just liked being together. Yeah, just.
It offers a lot. Well, you had mentioned it earlier in the podcast that you loved education.
Right.
So that makes sense.
I know.
And
so I became a teacher anyway.
That's right. You did.
And I learned a lot. Believe me, I got my education later.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, things were suddenly made sense to me too, like the history books, and I got to see patterns, and I started learning.
Amazing what
with
happens
the children.
when your frontal cortex is fully developed. It's funny too that interests change, and understanding changes, and provokes interest into things that you wouldn't have been interested in when you were a kid.
Sure.
So history,
Yes.
good example.
Yeah.
Now that you've experienced some history and you've experienced things, I don't know what it is. But then you start being interested in I'd really like to know more about that. When in high school, it's I hate it.
Right.
So yeah, fascinating that would kind of spark things in you.
And I could have felt bad in high school or in school that there were things that I didn't like and didn't appreciate, because obviously they were important. But then I found out, even during homeschooling, that some things are important to some people in some areas of the country. For example, kids in our neck of the woods might learn about maple syrup making, and it might be a thing that they talk about in school with the children. Whereas, in Florida, they might not be talking about that very same thing. And it was oh, yeah, it's okay, to have highlighted interests and really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's probably just more world knowledge, more experience that kind of perks those interests in you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your scope starts to widen out as you get older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite memory?
Do I have a favorite memory of homeschooling?
Yeah.
All of it.
Good.
I loved waking up at like not having to wake up super early. I mean, we had like story, like you read a book to us in the morning a lot of times. And we would work on projects and stuff while you were reading to us. But what time of the day would that been, do you think?
After breakfast, probably mid-morning, 9, 10 o'clock.
Yeah. And then we were done by 12,
Maybe.
1 at the latest. And then we got to go play outside.
Yeah. That's your favorite thing?
Yeah.
Is that like saying recess is your favorite subject in school? Come on.
Kind of. But like, I think that because I had the experience of all of the spectrum,
Yes.
like I was homeschooled until, 8th through 8th grade. And then I went to high school for all of my high school years. Then I went to college. Then I went to master's. Then I went to upper education.
Wow.
So like,
And then to the police academy, which is sort
and
of
then I was
like
in a police academy, and then
vocational school.
Yep. And had really looked into, the higher learning PhD program type thing.
Right.
So seeing all of that, and then seeing how I was raised from those, from pre-K to 8th grade, really made me realize like there's a lot of the day that's not necessary for this.
Oh, well.
Like I can get all my work done in a couple hours.
Yeah, I hear that a lot with homeschooling.
Well, it's only because like my whole senior year was like, I had like 5 study halls a day, I think, for a few classes. I don't know.
You know what I did my senior year?
What?
I had a few of those classes too that you had to take, history and English, and then maybe some phys ed. But then I went to I heard somebody else say it on your podcast, a work study program.
Yeah. Yep. That would have been...
Was it Kurt? I think he said, yeah, we called that work study. Anyway, I went to the local nursery school and was there. And then so I went to the nursery school first because that was in the morning.
Benny.
Oh, it's Benny?
Yeah, Ben Roggie was talking about that. He was working at the grocery store.
Oh, yes, he was. He said we called that work study. Okay, so mine really was.
Yeah, right.
It wasn't a job that I got paid at, but it was part of my schooling.
Okay.
So anyway, I went to the nursery school every day and was like a teacher's assistant or whatever there.
Yeah.
And did that.
And
then I went home early.
I don't want to say that time at school is necessarily wasted, but I think that the way that it's presented is, it feels like the hours are long and just so happens to coincide with the work day. So it's a little bit of a family
it's a babysitting thing.
Kind of not. I mean, the fact is that people do rely on school for childcare,
Sure.
big time.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. And then how do you make the day fit that? And how much can you actually educate yourself? How many hours would it actually take with an individualized teacher? Schools don't have that luxury of being one-on-one. So that's another part, right? Or 3 or 4 on 1, whatever it was for you.
Yeah.
So that is another thing. You learn faster. You learn more intentionally when you have somebody over your shoulder. And that's not the case at school. So, all the time.
think so.
You know, if you got 30 kids in a classroom, they're not getting individualized attention for 40 minutes.
Some of them are getting it, and some of them are not. And
right. So I don't know. Those are just broad opinions that I haven't worked out super. But my favorite things about homeschooling, I loved being together.
Okay.
Being home. I loved the flexibility of it, not being in a super rigid schedule, especially as a young boy. It's not a good situation for boys, especially
That's what I've heard too.
That are, needing to be out exploring, playing in the dirt when they're young, to be in a classroom staring at a wall. So
I'm glad you guys got to do that. I love that.
We played in the woods a ton. We had good community with other homeschoolers around. That was really fun. I loved going on like little field trips and stuff like that.
Okay.
I remember finishing my 100 easy lessons to read.
You do?
Yeah, we went bowling as a
okay celebration
as a reward.
Yeah.
But I really value the time that I had when you were teaching us.
Yeah.
It's just there's something about it.
That's good.
Obviously, it left a good impression. I mean, we're considering that too. So,
yeah.
But there is definitely also something to having the mother raise the kids. If you have that nowadays, it's becoming a luxury to be able to have a mother in the home versus both parents working. A lot of places that just isn't even a consideration, unfortunately. And a lot of it does depend on how much you're willing to sacrifice
Yeah.
on the monetary end or the lifestyle
For
end.
sure.
And you can make that work if it's that important to you pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
Smaller house, less cars, not new, so there's ways to work around it. I think personally it's so important for a mother to be raising their children as much as possible. It bears out in all the data that I've seen. The outcomes are so much better, and Dad worked a lot. Like, we didn't see Dad a lot. He was hard working. He worked a lot of hours. He was gone a lot. So I think that if I would have had to been at school and then not seen him and only seen you for a couple of hours, that would have been hard, because he was able to come home for lunch every once in a while, and or we could go to him, and we wouldn't have had that if we were in school.
In all of your high school years, was he right down the street from school?
You
would go down and have lunch almost every day, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think you were the only one who did that.
Yeah.
On a regular, like a very consistent basis. Yeah.
Right.
That's really neat.
Yeah. So a lot of strong relationships. I feel like I'm really close with my brother and my sister because of it. Because there's a big age gap between me and the older brothers. But, we were together all day, every day.
And still, yeah.
Yep. And we have that very strong,
that
strong bond. So
a
lot of good benefits. And I would encourage anybody who's considering doing it. I'm going to have Tyson back on soon and talk more about it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Because he dives a little bit more into the data and different things and kind of the construction of modern education, where the roots of it come from. Did you know that it was like designed for like a factory worker kind of production style? Like, we need to teach kids how to answer to a bell and to do this and to move to this place.
I haven't heard that.
It was designed during, I want to say, one of the world wars, probably World War II, because that's where they were going into the workforce and needed to start to get that worked out. So, I don't know.
They were going to school before that, certainly.
People were.
For many, many, many,
one-room
many
schoolhouses.
years.
Yeah, so maybe the more corporate education.
There's a place for both.
Definely. Oh,
There's
I
things
agree.
that big schools can do that homeschools can't do.
For sure.
And vice versa.
Yep. And I'm never, like, I've kind of always had that opinion because I went to both. I've seen the goods and the bads of both, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
The limitations of both and the benefits of both. Yeah, for sure.
Can you name that?
The benefits?
No, the non-benefit of homeschooling.
Opportunity.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Can't homeschoolers in New York State, for whatever reason, that doesn't make any sense.
Can't participate in the sports.
Can't participate in sports. Can't participate in theater or music.
That they could, but
a little bit
some
now,
yeah,
but definitely not sports.
Individual schools, but the schools probably aren't going to allow it anyway. But in some states they can.
Yep.
Some states they can go in and out and do whatever they want all day long. You can go in for science class if you want and go back home.
Really? That's amazing.
I think New Hampshire.
Yeah, so that is a big limitation of homeschooling.
Right.
It's
Yes,
just I don't feel at all that it's a social component, because you did a good job integrating us into social.
Hey, none of you have seemed to suffer
from
that.
But you were involved.
Seen it, but
you were involved in homeschool groups, and we spent time with other kids, and we did art classes with
you were involved in other homeschool groups. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, not on a weekly basis. We just every once in a while did a field trip together, right?
Yeah, but a lot of the people like at church were homeschooled, so we interacted with that same group pretty regular basis.
True.
But we would go do things, like we did things, and that is the part of homeschooling that has to be intentional from, I think, the parents, is to make sure that they're getting some kind of social component. Obviously, you don't want to isolate your kids too much from other people, and you don't want
to have life experiences and keep taking your kids out to those.
Yep.
Be in ball games and go grocery shopping with and.
Take them to the county fair, set up play dates, have, all those kinds of things. I would say that's definitely what I would say. There's more opportunity, there's more programs, there's more funding. There's a lot of different, that kind of stuff would be,
for sure.
Would be what I would say. But,
but
I mean, there's downfalls too of public schooling. And so, I'm not a staunch participant of one side versus the other at all. I think that both can be very valuable.
That's right.
The other part of it too is I really appreciated growing up and having our moral foundation established and not having too many outside influences pulling us all different ways and trying to stretch our identity in different directions that weren't healthy or positive.
Yeah.
So I really liked having that core kind of being in place by the time I made this decision pretty much to go to high school. And that way I did not give in to peer pressure. I wasn't interested in the nonsense that a lot of, schooling can be and social things that can happen. I just wasn't interested. It's like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have had that conviction, I don't think, so much if I didn't have that upbringing. So interesting. That's just my personality, though. That's an anecdote. And everybody should take that with a grain of salt, because other people would do the exact opposite. They would have the same thing, then get into high school, total rebellion.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Boy.
But I appreciate that about my upbringing, is that I felt like I was poured into a lot growing up. That way, my moral fabric was strong, and my foundations were strong to then kind of branch out a bit. So
yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah. So, I mean,
worked out well for you.
Yeah, I'd be okay with something like that too. I don't know.
Yes. And lucky for you, it was your choice, that we even talked about it, that you talked about it. I mean, of course, the coach was breathing down our neck. Thank you, Danny.
Yeah.
Because he wanted you to come play, both of you boys. But like before that, we didn't even talk about it. When it came to ninth grade, we didn't really discuss it for Tyson to move on. I think we were pretty entrenched at that point. And same for Tyler. And by the time you came around, Tyler was influencing us somewhat. One of the things that he said was like, "Why isn't Brock on that bus?" Maybe he thought you should go. He wished that he could have gone and played sports. I think he mentioned that in his podcast. But and he had also said a very profound thing to me one time. We were having a late night discussion, he and I, and he said, "There's more than one right way to do things, or more than one perfect homeschooling way to do things." And I was like, "Ooh, wow!" Like that is something that still is a mantra for me. There's more than one perfect homeschooling way to do things, and there are. And I'm so glad he said that, and it opened up opportunity for you. For us to have the open mind, like, yeah, we could let you go to school if you want, if that's what you want to do, and you completely made the decision. And
and then another thing about public school with the opportunities was then I was able to, have a successful high school career in baseball and get offers to go to college and
exactly.
So, and I probably wouldn't have done any of that if it wasn't for that decision. So the fact that he was able to kind of show some serious humility there, or not humility, maturity.
Tyler?
Yeah.
To say that?
I know. Like, hey, just so you know.
Because that wasn't in my, whoa. No, obviously. I had to learn that.
Right.
He was absolutely right. And it really, in so many areas of my life.
Yeah.
And I really value that. I feel like it's the opposite of arrogance to recognize that there isn't one perfect way that everything must be done by everybody.
Yeah, things that are done in absolutes aren't really.
Well,
you think that that's it? Like if you're looking at something through a framework of one way to do it, there's an absolute right way to do things. It's kind of muddies the water.
It borders on arrogance for me to have thought that this was the only right way to do things. When a lot of people make decisions that are different than mine, that doesn't mean that they're wrong either. They're just different. That's been something that I've continually had to learn.
Yeah,
it's not wrong. It's just different. Like even when it's so near and dear to me, and I like believe in what I'm doing. How could everybody not want to?
Right. Do it my way.
But
and have good outcomes. Doing things a different way than you would do it and still having good outcomes must show fruit of something good.
Yeah, people do. People do things very different than me and have great outcomes as well. I feel very humbled by the outcome of our kids, like very humbled.
It's interesting you say that because like I never felt any pressure one way or another, which I think is a parenting super hack. If you could figure out how to, if you could figure out how to teach me how to do that, how do you encourage your children without in what they want to do without having your own expectations? Like, I think most people get that wrong.
Yeah, I think just asking a lot of questions, you know, and trying to get them to think through things that like you're already thinking or wondering, you know, like, but to hear, there have been times when I've talked to, you know, you kids and I've seen you maybe going in a certain direction and asked all of the questions and like, gosh, when you give really good answers, okay, that's good. You know, you've thought this through and it's maybe different than what I would do, but when you answer everything correctly, so to speak, you know, like with good thought, intelligence, prayer, you know, then it's got to be okay. And it's just a learning to let go then.
Yeah, it's got to be hard to be watching somebody go down a path that even you could know is wrong, not just think is wrong or it's your opinion and be like, I know how that's going to end up.
Yeah.
Like maybe not do that, but like, how do you have the conversation with your child about like, I'm still here. It's your decision. It's going to be okay, while letting the guardrails down.
We'll be here afterward to help you pick up the pieces.
Yeah. Is that like one of the hardest thing about parenting, do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is because you're hoping for the best, but you can also see like, I don't think that's going to work for you, you know, but you're just supportive. And again, praying, you know, and sometimes things fell to the wayside that we had concerns about.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and ultimately, you know, you're raising your kids to be
Make
their own people.
Decision. Yes, I know. I was trying to raise independent children, and sometimes I was like,
there's got to be a balance there.
You bought a house? You know?
Yep.
Why did I raise these independent children anyway?
Yeah. Well, you don't want the inverse.
Well, and then I can kind of take the boundaries point of view, like, okay, that's their decision, and they are the ones that are going to live with it. It's really not my circus, not my monkeys, you know? Like, I'm okay with that. You don't want your kids to suffer, but it's them that have to suffer. It is not me, usually. You might be part of it. You know what I mean? But it's different. It's not owning, there it is, not owning the other person's decisions then. Letting them make them and then letting that go. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Is that hard as a mother?
Well, it's more freeing, honestly, than hard. It's more freeing to recognize and to separate in a healthy way. Like, okay, that's their decision. They did that, and they have to live with those consequences. And I'll do what I can to help, but I don't have to live it. I don't have to do it. I don't have to feel the whole thing. Yeah, detachment, healthy detachment. You know about that?
No.
No?
Tell me.
In psychology.
Healthy detachment. I have an idea, but I want to hear you.
Well, just what I just explained. That I can detach in a way to recognize that's their problem, and I don't have to pick it up and take it on as mine, and I don't have to fix it for them.
Right. Which is hard because when a child makes a bad decision and bears those consequences, there's other pressures that come back to you or could come back to you.
Sure, you could be embarrassed.
What are people going to think?
Right.
You know, how are people going to perceive my parenting? Like, I let them go do that thing.
Yeah.
But the truth is at a certain age, if you don't start letting them do that and venturing out and making their own decisions and their own mistakes, then you're going to get somebody who will never leave.
Right. And you can be enmeshed, or is that what the term enmeshment is? Where you can't differentiate yourself from other people's problems.
Enmeshment?
Enmeshment.
Let me look. Google it? I'm going to Google it. See what Oxford says. Okay. Enmeshment is a psychological context.
The inability to separate yourself. What? Go ahead.
Enmeshment in a psychological context describes a family dynamic where boundaries between individuals are blurred or non-existent. Nice, Mom.
Nice word.
Hey, all right.
I nailed it.
You're smarter than Oxford.
No, just kidding.
Interesting. Yeah. And then what does that do to child development or adult relationship even?
It's not, I think about it more as like myself then in that situation where I'm going to be up at night worrying about your problems. I'm going to be spending my time trying to fix your problems. It's just not healthy. I think it's not healthy for me. You know, I need my sleep. I need my well-being. So to let that go and recognize this is a boundary. This is not my issue. I didn't cause this. I didn't start this. I even didn't want this. And I'll be there to help, but I am not going to take it on as my responsibility. That's the difference right there. You know, if you have a responsibility and you say to someone, oh, like, can you do this load of laundry for me? Like, that's that person doing the load of laundry, but that's not that person saying, oh, yes, laundry needs to be done. I need to keep up on this. There's a difference between you owning the responsibility or you helping somebody with the responsibility. You know, a father might come home and make dinner at night, but I bet that the mom is the one thinking about it and having the responsibility. You know, not always. They're more shared now. But for me, you know, Will cook once in a while, but I bet he doesn't think first thing in the morning, okay, what am I going to do for dinner? And I feel responsible to get a meal on the table. You know, he might help with that or do what I ask, but he's not carrying that load. And I think when you start carrying other people's burdens in that way, that they become enmeshed, like part of your own, it gets really unhealthy.
And the unhealthiness of that can look like a wayward person who then doesn't understand their own autonomy.
Sure.
So you're thinking of it more from like the mother's perspective, and I'm thinking about it more from the child's perspective. If I don't know what clear roles are familially established, then my own identity starts to blur. The dynamics in my life start to blur. Oh, well, it's my mom's responsibility to make my dentist appointment.
Right. You have such expectations.
Yes, which then limits their confidence to go out in the world and do those things.
Right.
There's secondary effects there.
Right.
Not just the interpersonal relationship between parent and child, but also child to the world. And
yeah, I suppose. And that's where the independent children come in.
Yeah.
You know? So that's one thing that I think that I have learned to do, and it has come a little bit more naturally to me to be able to do that anyway, to separate in that way.
Because it's not necessarily the motherly instinct is.
But it may make me appear cold or
right.
callous
That's what
sometimes
I mean.
too.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not jumping in, helping with everything. I'm maybe hanging back a little bit more, maybe waiting to be asked. Yeah.
And that can come across like you don't care.
Yeah, or I'm not involved, or like, oh, I wish my mother would do this, or, you know, I wish she was here to babysit for my kids more, or, you know,
how do you counteract that? Like, would you, conversations? Just more conversations? Like, if you feel like I'm not giving you the attention you need?
I don't think that I hear it much, but it has happened. And then I struggled. Like, it made the perfect storm, because then I am the people pleaser wanting to be that for that person on one hand, but not feeling like I can take that on either without it feeling burdensome. You know, which
it's quite a dichotomy.
Trying to avoid, trying to do things that I find life in.
Okay.
You know, eating not from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, but eating from the tree of life. Like, oh, there's life in this for me. I would love to help you with that. You know, and especially if they're doing something that I maybe could help with. Let's say you were putting up a gazebo. I would love to come help you with that.
Good, because I'm going to be building a deck soon.
Good. I would love to come help you with that. And then I might volunteer. And I'm also willing to help when people ask, but I might not volunteer for things that don't bring life to me.
So you're just selfish. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's what I'm fighting against all the time. Like, is this making me, am I just being selfish? Am I, you know, Yeah.
It's got to be an interesting struggle. I'm not nearly in those stages of life yet. Like right now with our kids, like our stage of life is we're controlling everything so that you survive pretty much. You get a little bit of autonomy as a 3-year-old, not much, basically none.
Anytime you ask a 3-year-old a question, do you want to come take a bath now?
Yeah,
You're giving them a lot of autonomy.
Yeah. So like at what point does it transition from that? Do you, in your expert opinion?
Oh yes, my expert opinion.
Like at what point do you start to give in more? Because raising independent children is hard because children will mostly make the wrong decisions.
And that's good for them too.
Yeah.
That's good. Children should be making decisions that backfire on them and that they have to learn from. I
like
hate
eating
that
candy
as a
all
parent.
day?
No, they can do that.
You say
I'm
that
kidding.
because you give them Smarties every time.
I didn't let my kids eat like that.
No, but was it Uncle Matt and Aunt Tish who let Maddie
I think so.
have like
I forgot about
unlimited candy or something? Was there something about that?
Yes, I
can't
vaguely.
remember. And boy, it taught him a lesson.
backfired.
Yeah, taught him a lesson.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. I love that idea.
Yeah.
Especially like, oh, you think you can make the decisions.
It is
Here you
such
go.
a wise parenting move to be able to let your kids make decision. And I think you realize that and you're golden. But here it is. It's a difference of priority. Like you have to think, okay, is this a safety issue? Or is this just my personal opinion? Is this going to create more work for me? You know, you have to weigh all those things. And that's how you decide moment by moment, okay, they can make this decision.
Yeah.
And give them autonomy, give them like, okay, especially when a kid is giving pushback, then you have to evaluate, why am I holding back here? Is it just because it's going to make more work for me? Which sometimes is enough of a reason not to let them. But a lot of times it might be like, okay, no, I can handle the outcome of this. Maybe it's just an inconvenience or, you know, or like, no, this is a safety issue, you know.
It's a moving target, right? Like it kind of feels like
absolutely
you have to understand what
case.
stage of understanding they are, development, personality, their own abilities to do things. Like that is the hard part about parenting is that topics like this are so fluid, and there's no one size fits all.
Yes, if
right?
only I would have known that. As a parent, you know.
So I'm ahead of the curve. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's nice if you can believe that. I mean, people told me things, and I just was still seeking that one right way to do everything because I wanted a certain outcome, and I wanted to do it right, and I wanted it to be perfect, and
because the ultimate goal is that your children are raised up to be competent adults that can contend with the world.
Right.
And
what I wanted,
and
productive
succeed and be happy.
Productive,
whatever that word means.
Citizens, you know, contributing to society. Like that's what I wanted.
And leading families and being part of their families and having their own families. Like this is kind of like the whole point of a legacy and, you know, a lineage is that you want to pass down the good things as much as you possibly can and limit the bad things as much as you can. That doesn't mean you don't allow them to happen and step aside to let the bad things happen sometimes, like you're discussing, because that builds character, resilience. Some of these other things you don't get. Like you don't get resilience if you're never...
Right.
You don't get resilience and perseverance if you don't go through hard things.
Right.
So how are you supposed to learn those lessons?
Right.
Right? So...
Yeah.
Yeah, I just love that. I think that's so good and good advice for anybody that can listen and hear it. Every child is different. Every parenting style is a little bit different.
I wish that I could, the past me, I wish, you know, like what would I go back and tell my 20-year-old self or my 30-year-old self? And people were telling me this, but I didn't believe them. You know, they were saying like, it's important what you're doing. It wasn't enough. It was never enough. You know, I thought I needed to be out, you know, saving the world. And I was just at home living the dream, you know, doing the thing that I love to do, living the dream, living my best life then, you know, raising my kids. And so because I loved it so much, it felt selfish. And I didn't realize how important it was, even though people told me that over and over and over. And now I see like my daughters-in-law doing just so many similar things. And I'm like, oh, this is so important. I'm so glad you're doing this. But they're beating themselves up because they're not doing enough either. You know, it's just this perpetual cycle. It's like, I couldn't believe it. But now I get it. A little too late for me, but...
Well, the jury's out on how we turned out. Is that it?
No, just myself, for how much I beat myself up and how I didn't believe that it was important, even though people were telling me it was important what I'm doing. And I can't convey it enough to the next generation. This is so important, what you're doing, being here with your children and teaching them. And it's amazing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a good message. That's probably a good one to wrap up on. Yeah. I've loved this conversation. I hope you've had a good time. This has been really fun for me.
Thanks.
We didn't even get into some of the things I thought maybe we would talk about.
Right.
You have been, seems like in everything you do, and you referenced it in the podcast, you'd be kind of a leader in a lot of things. I would love, a lot of leadership teams, a lot of, you've started businesses, and I would love to kind of get the frame of mind around a leader. Maybe next time if you come on again.
Sure.
Your fitness journey, I would love to talk about that.
That'd be fun.
That'd be so fun. Well-being, and then, marriage. You guys have done counseling with marriage, and
we have had our own struggles too.
That's what I mean. Yeah. And that's, so I would love to see the progression from struggling marriage to kind of figuring it out a little bit, and then helping others to realize, it's not always perfect, and it's a job.
And that's not the goal. Huh.
Oh, wow.
Newsflash. For Dawn Roggie.
But yeah, marriage and how that, your insights on that and what you could download to me. I know a lot of it, but I know a lot of people don't. And a lot of people are struggling, and a lot of people could hear that message, and it would impact their lives.
Yeah.
But
it's a whole journey in and of itself.
Right.
For sure. And
that's kind of the other part, is like there's simultaneous journeys going on all at the same time. Yeah. How do you balance all of that?
Yeah.
But
you're
conversation for another day.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
What a pleasure. This is a real honor for me.
Drag me in here.
I did. Kicking and screaming.
You got it.
But I'm already excited to be editing this so we can get this message out. So
good. Thanks,
Thank
Brock.
you. Yep. All right. That's it, folks. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.